Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Josh. So Josh, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Josh Carn Saferstein. I own a photo production company for e-commerce brands and CPG, and I'm based in Denver, Colorado.
Awesome. Well, Josh, I'm curious more about your business. How did you guys get this idea to start this business?
Yeah, when I was in college, I was freelancing. So it's during my senior year. And I was doing a handful of building websites, doing some design, started getting more into photography, specifically product photography. And I was looking to start a creative business that had the ability to productize what's something that I can turn into more of a product rather than it just being, or not just being, but rather than being solely service-based of doing a handful of different services, trying to create something that has some momentum and structure and repetition around it. So yeah, as I was looking at the post-college plan, wanted to start a business, I knew that the e-commerce space was growing, the need for content on digital increasing. So I was looking at just different businesses that would make the most sense to start, what I was more excited about at the time. And Birdhill was born 2020, mid-pandemic. I was graduating college online because everything went remote, but starting a business during the time was somewhat easier to focus on. So that's how we started.
Awesome. So in terms of Birdhill, right? I mean, obviously you guys have worked with many brands of all different sizes. I mean, Noom is a big, client of yours. So how exactly do you work with these brands? When somebody engages like a Noom, for example, how do you, best serve them?
Yeah, so we offer monthly photo and stop motion plans. So we're delivering assets every month. And the main places that they're using them are on paid, on social, and on website. But they're the place where this content's going and a lot of others as well. So they send us their product each month. We build a shot list, lead the creative direction, style, shoot, retouch it all here in Denver, and then send the content back to the client. And then they're using it on all the different brand channels. And yeah, most of the brands that we're working with, they all have an internal marketing team of some size. Sometimes it's a smaller team of one or two. Other instances, it's over a dozen people. But having an in-house photo studio is not very common. And even some of the brands that we work with do create content in-house. But the scale and the need for how much needs to be created typically is tough to do all internally. So that's where we come in.
For sure. So you're just doing photos, or do you also do video? I guess and what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now we do photo and stop motion video. The stop motion videos that we're creating, usually 5 to 7 seconds, really showing the product in use, the beauty shot of the product, but we're not creating longer form narrative stories or live action videos.
Got it. And then do you have for example, if it's like a lifestyle photo, do you have you could say influencers that you partner with locally that come into the studio, or is it really just the, products with no humans in the photos?
Yeah, so with all of our plans, there's different amounts of models that are included. We do include talent in most of our photo shoots. So whether a model's, in a kitchen setting or outside, or it's more product focused, we incorporate models in most of our shoots.
So do you actually go to these places? If it's outside, I mean, obviously here in Denver, there's plenty of nature, things like that. Or are you sort of using a green screen background, or maybe just a combination of both? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we're not using green screen backgrounds, but it is a mixture of us building sets within our studio space. So building kitchens, building bathrooms. And since product is relatively small, we're typically not building extremely wide sets because then the product will be this small in frame. But so we're building within our studio space, and then also we're going outside into trails, into parks. And it's right now, I don't know, Denver, the weather is a little bit bipolar. It's 70 degrees today.
Right. So yeah.
Kind of warm, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Essentially, like, it seems like most of your products are smaller and more like CPG products, and you're not, I mean, would you ever have like larger products that are e-com and not CPG, like let's just say furniture, things like that? Or is it really just kind of smaller things you can go and carry, somewhere else?
I mean, it's primarily food, beverage, supplements, and we've started doing a lot more with pet products as well. But yeah, a lot of mainly CPG products that have some adjacency to Whole Foods, whether they're in Whole Foods or we don't have any partnership or anything like that with Whole Foods. It just happens to be a lot of better for you products.
For sure. And I guess like there's some, I'm sure there's obviously like other people in the space, you could say competitors. So just from your perspective, right? Like what have you seen that kind of, things that you guys, made like other people don't do, or like what actually makes, a good photo shoot? Because yeah, it's like many people are, I think, entering this space or in this space. So yeah, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it is like what we are doing is we're leading the creative process from the start to finish. So, from the shot list to the prop sourcing to talent to delivering the content. And this is something where like oftentimes smaller teams or an individual freelancer, it is tough to be able to do the entire production of a photo shoot, which we're able to offer. And then the other part of it is we are creating on a monthly basis for our brands. So rather than doing one massive campaign shoot or a couple a year, we're able to constantly create based on what the brand needs, based on what we're learning is more effective for the brand. So there's just more of a tight feedback loop with how we're working with our brands. And as we continue to work with them, we learn more and more about what's performing, what's more on brand, kind of what's hitting a little bit closer. So that's kind of I would say is our special sauce is being able to lead from start to finish, but we don't handle a lot of other parts of the marketing funnel. So we're able to really focus on what we do, which is the content creation part of
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah, so it seems like you're really churning out lots of different content. I mean, especially as you said earlier, right? If brands are doing paid media, they have lots of different creatives that they're putting out there every day, even, right? So it's like, for you guys, if they're on a retainer with you, then you can, do lots of different photos and help them push out, different angles, content. And on top of that, you're sort of like leading the strategy, right? It's not just you're just only taking photos, like you're really focused on like, their brand messaging. How can you really give your clients like the most value?
Yeah, no, well said. Yeah, so it is something of just like there's a difference of being able to take a really nice photo, a few times, but being able to consistently do it for brand in a way that is also moving the needle forward. So it's not like we just hit a style and then it's a plug and play template, but how can we build a style that's cohesive, that's connected, but also is moving things forward? And I do think having a partnership and a relationship with the brand allows us to learn, allows us to iterate, and kind of same goes on the brand side. You were asking
Yeah,
too, like what about us, I guess, makes us different, or what about this space
yeah,
is tricky? Is I do think it's hard to create like really polished high level brand content at scale consistently on an ongoing basis. And it's not like there's some special technology or we have some special sauce of how we're doing it. There's so many other talented creators in our space as well. I do just think it's challenging to bring talent together to be able to do it consistently. It's somewhat niche, and it takes people who have been around it for some time to be able to click.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes sense. And I think, one thing I'm also curious about is you were talking about how many of your clients end up in Whole Foods, but obviously like, not every single CPG brand has a strong e-commerce focus. So is that sort of something that has to be aligned for you to make sense? Because I feel like if they're not really doing much e-com, then they probably don't need as many creatives, or I guess like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, there's certainly no rule of like gotta be pushing hard on ecom, but to your point, it is the case that if retail is the sole focus, the amount of media that's needed is just less. But even still, it's like some of the brands that we work with at like if they're at scale, even if e-commerce is not a focus in any way, still having an ongoing flow of content to fuel different brand channels to push people to retail still
Right.
holds its own weight. So, it is the case that, yeah, more so on the side of being able to update and upload content media wise. But if a brand is large enough, and even retail is the main primary driver. Still being able to promote the brand is key.
For sure. So obviously now we're here in the new year's 2025, we're already in February. So what are some of your biggest goals for this year that you guys want to accomplish?
Yeah, and I think really building out our team here in Denver. We had some remote team members, which I required everyone to be in Denver, where I do think just the collaboration is going to be a lot more flowing and humming with everyone being here rather than part of the team. And then also just continuing to work with awesome brands that we're inspired by and allow us to create and help push them as well. Something that I'm flirting with, which we're not there yet, but is offering longer form video. It's something that does take a different production setup. It takes different talent, different approach, but I do think for our space, the type of client would be very consistent. So that part, I think I have a strong understanding of what we would want to do. It just takes a lot of human power.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially if you're talking about like longer form content that's going to go on YouTube. I mean, if it's something that's 30 seconds or a minute, I mean, it's still obviously more work, but it's not as complex as like a hour-long video. So,
But I'm not talking about hour-long video. I'm talking about like 30-second videos.
30 seconds.
So
Okay.
even something of that nature, like leading full productions of 30-second video can take so much time. And yeah. So not thinking as much on the hour long. I'm like maybe one day documentary sounds fun. But no, more practically with 15, 30, 60-second videos, it takes a different production, different crew. But I do think the clients that we work with in the space that we're in, there is certainly a need for longer form video as well. And when I say longer form, 30-second, which isn't that long, but longer than 5 seconds of what we're creating right now.
So in terms of that, I mean, obviously, like lots of videos that you see kind of getting traction, going viral is really as simple as people like, just filming something from their phone, like not super polished. So how do you kind of navigate through like that trend versus high production, high quality videos that you guys are working on?
Yeah, I would say there's different places, there's different needs for different things. And it's like, as a brand, you're going to want some of the gritty TikTok raw style of content that is someone talking about, they're excited about your snack and how it's changed their morning routine. But then on the other side, you also want imagery and content that's showing your brand from a more polished standpoint, showing food looking really delicious, showing the lifestyle of how someone consumes a product. What is that demographic that we're trying to create for? So I view it more so as like there is such a need for both, and it kind of just does depend on where the content's going. Like for example, we don't create much that lands on TikTok, and the reason for it is like, yeah, the content that we're creating is more of the polished, high touch point from a buying standpoint for brands, where we're not creating the user generated content. So I would say like if TikTok is the main focus to grow, we aren't the answer for that, but there's so many others that are.
Makes sense. So if you could go back in time to before you got started, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
I like that. Like do less is what I would. And I learned that the long way, and it wasn't terribly long, but when we first started, my original business partner and I, we were doing both photo and video, and we thought that we could, and we did for some time. Once we started bringing on other team members, being able to produce both at the scale that we wanted to was really hard. And I think when I first started, had an idea or a feeling of like nothing was enough. So it was like, let's also offer social media management, because I don't think people will buy monthly content. They did. Like I had this preconceived idea. So originally started offering social media management on a very low scale of it, not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to. Like, who the hell is going to buy content if there isn't someone who's managing it? And as I've learned, they can be, in which they are in our case, a completely different side of what's happening. From like who's creating the content and who's managing the content is not the same people in our instance right now. And I really like social media management is not something I have excitement in, but I did it because I felt like no one's going to buy what we're doing if this isn't included. But that was just a made up insecurity in my head that I proved wrong. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think focus is super important.
yeah. So no, that would be kind of my answer is just like do less and focus on that. And I do have a mindset of frequently wanting to focus rather than continue to do more. Like I would rather dive deep into what we're doing and become as good as we can rather than jump into a lot of other marketing channels that I think we would probably be okay at. So
Right.
but
Makes sense.
even though that is like a way that I like to think, I still catch myself sometimes, I don't know, losing that sight. And in fairness, early on it is like what can we do to pay bills and get clients and down to
Right.
be more stretchy. So I don't know. I understand it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. If somebody watching this wanted to work with you guys or wanted to reach out, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Yeah, on our website has a contact form, which is a great way to get in contact and start working with us. Also can contact me, just josh@birdhill.com. I'm easy to reach, happy to talk. And sometimes it's the instance when I talk to a new brand where it's like, oh, what we do is exactly what this brand is looking for at this time, and it's the right fit. And in other instances, it's there's potential here, but it's not the right time. So it's always just good to chat and see where brands are. And yeah, we're excited to continue taking on more brands this year.
Awesome. Well, Josh, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Dana. It was great talking with you, and look forward to talking soon.